Alright, so I thought we'd do a quick little run through on the software here for the Logitech G915. So in the G Suite, just like all the other Logitech devices, it shows up. You can see battery level. Clicking on it unlocks all the features that you get to configure with this keyboard, which there are many. First and foremost, you can see that one of the big features of this keyboard is the lighting. It says per key RGB, and so you can see here I've configured mine kind of just to align to my color theme style I have with the RGB fans in my case. But you can do anything you want. They have these quick little, like for example, if we want to say, okay, let's change all the arrow keys to whatever color we want here. So let's make them, I don't know, let's go with white. We can say arrow keys, and you can see it goes there. But if we want to, we can actually change each one of these. So I can click the color I want, make that one purple, pink, purple. We can do all of these different colors. So anything that you can imagine. I'm using the freestyle, but there's many different things that you can do with this if you so choose. I'm going to go ahead and throw this back to what it was, right? Many different animations. You can see here there's different colors. There's different presets where as you type, echo press. So this is kind of interesting. As you press, it will slowly fade. I'm just pressing these keys on the keyboard. And so, you can play around with that a lot. Pretty much anything that you could expect for a per key RGB keyboard. Then, of course, there's all the different assignments. So one of the nice things about the entire G series of keyboards are the macro keys. This one happens to be one that has 5. Different keyboards like the G613 have an extra macro key. I personally don't use these, but you can set this up to be, geez, almost anything you can imagine, right? Anything that you can dream up, including different actions around popular software like Discord, OBS, if you're a streamer. And then you can set these to different memory profiles. And the nice thing about that is if you're someone who, for whatever reason, uses very different macro keys, like let's say you want to set these up to do macros in game, and maybe that's your first memory profile, great. And then maybe if you wanted to have completely different set of keys for when you're doing spreadsheets, productivity, video editing, whatnot, you can do that. And through the memory recall buttons up top here, you can just click that, and it will instantly reassign them. You don't have to come back into the software, which is a nice touch. So not a lot here. I mean, basically, this is your standard setup for keyboards. Game mode. I don't personally use this because when I game, I use the regular arrow keys. I'm a little bit of a weirdo that way. But if you're someone who used the WSAD key setup and you find yourself hitting the Windows key a lot, that's essentially game mode. Now you can actually go and disable more keys if you're someone who's accidentally, maybe I rest my palm here and I don't want these to be enabled. You can configure that here as well, right? So that basically runs down the basics. One of the little hacks then, if we go into the settings, a couple things to point out here. Number one, when you get this keyboard and set it up, it's not going to have any onboard memory defined or effects. And so what that leads to is when this goes to sleep and then wakes back up, if you want it to basically come right back to where it looks and has all the settings while it's quote unquote waking up, what you should do is turn on the onboard memory module here. It'll take a second. You can then upload your default profile or whichever one that you normally use, right? It'll upload it, and then you don't actually have to keep this on for it to take effect. You can then turn that off. And that way, when it is going to sleep and coming back awake, you have all the settings. And this is the same trick for G series mice as well that support onboard memory. If, for example, you have a certain DPI setting, if you don't do what I've just done here, when you go to wake the mouse, it'll default to a lower DPI setting for just, a second or two, which can be kind of jarring, right? Here you can basically configure a handful of little things like low battery mode. How does it going to show you? So you can always come into the software here, but I think the visual is really nice to say, oh, I need to plug this in. I've left mine as default, and then the inactivity lighting. So of course you can always set the main brightness using the brightness button located right here on the physical keyboard. But much like laptop screens, what it'll do is after you're idle for a certain amount of time, it will first dim the keyboard and then it will basically go to sleep. And so you can configure that. I've upped mine a little bit because it's pretty aggressive out of the box. I think it's like 1 minute, 5 minutes. And it just seems like the keyboard, if you're here, actually doing things and you're not typing, let's say you're watching media, it just turns off all the time, right? And so one of the big selling points of this keyboard is the visuals. So I've upped mine a little bit. And I haven't noticed a big change in battery life, right? And speaking of battery life, here it is. So what I love about what the G Suite does is shows the system lighting and max charge. So based on your configuration that you have here, it's showing the consumption in terms of milliwatts of power, and as a result, how much active battery life you'll get. Now, 35 hours seems like a really low amount of time, but that's active, right? So it's active time typing on the keyboard. Because it goes to sleep, when it's not in use, I have charged this once over the course of, basically right when I got it, I charged it. It's been a little over a week. And, I think if we go back here, we can see we're at 87%. So it's not something that I think will actually need to be charged all that often. I think you'll get, for a typical user, you're probably going to get weeks and weeks of use in this before you actually have to charge it. So that's essentially the quick little rundown on the G19 features in the G Suite software.